Tosh Doje Shanti Compagnon Tosho. Let's do the four limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jen dam je dewa tang de we ju tang den ba ju jig. Dungal tang, dungal chichu tang trawa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang min trawa ju chik, ne ring chak tang ni tang trawe tang nom chempo la ne pa ju chik. So everybody, tonight we're going to do the second part of the 4 seals of Buddhism that provide us with great wisdom. And I think they really are amazing because they make us try to see life from a real helicopter view, from a different perspective, from this different karmic perspective. And tonight I was in the mood for doing some quotes. So I'm going to give you a few quotes that I found. Sometimes I'm in the mood and sometimes I'm in the mood for stories. So tonight it's quote night. So this comes from Tulku Pema Riksal in The Great Secret of Mind. And I think it answers most of your questions because he says, realize the natural perfection of mind, and all your negative obscurations accumulated over many eons are purified in an instant. Now, you know, so many people ask me all day long to try and help them, you know, to get over whatever it is that they're doing and whatever it is that they're stuck in. And there's the answer. All our negative obscurations accumulated are purified in an instant. The karma accumulated in previous eons are countless. Those karmas are countless. A pile of karmas higher than Mount Meru that we've all got and wider than the ocean is purified in a moment if only we realize the nature of mind. But we're so involved in our daily lives and we don't know how to get there. And we think if we don't get there in one instant, we won't be able to do it. As emotional afflictions have no substantial existence, but nonetheless appear through dualistic delusion like a mirage in a dream, with the arising of the conditions that cause them to vanish, they too disappear automatically. So a separate antidote need not be applied to each emotion. In other words, it's not necessary to go and fix up your depressions, your angers, and everything. It's necessary to go to the nature of mind, which then reflects with awareness what it is. He says, whatever needs correction is released just as it is, if only we can arrive at the natural place of intrinsic presence, where past, present, and future are identical. And he finally says, consider a dark cave. That's your mind, your human mind. Consider a dark cave that has been in darkness for 1,000 years. We take a lamp in there, a lamp that illuminates the cave. He says we cannot say that the darkness of eons is beyond illumination, because once the lamp is brought in, there's light. And he says, likewise, with all your obscurations and karmic imprints of beginningless lives are removed the instant we put the light on in that nature of mind. Now, you know, it's so interesting. One text that I got yesterday, which is so interesting, from a person who used to do Buddhism and who doesn't do it anymore and doesn't want to do it. So the person doesn't like Buddhism, but likes me and likes to make contact with me and make it and make it his way. So he says to me like this, Melanie, and don't give me a Buddhist answer. Okay, that's in the text. Don't give me a Buddhist answer. So I'm already tied up in a little rope, okay? But what can I do about all my attachments? I find it so difficult to give away things. I find it so difficult to let go of everything. I'm reaching a stage where I really need to leave my business, but I can't give it up. Is there a psychological way that you can help me to not be attached? Now, think about that question. All of you that know me like you do, think about that question. So, what did I say? I said, I'm really sorry that I can't give you a Buddhist answer. That ties my hand. But if I could give a Buddhist answer, I would say, you simply have to train in getting to the nature of mind. These 4 seals of Buddhism make us train to get to that nature of mind. But I couldn't, because I know that he absolutely won't accept it. So I said, I spoke about giving up our earthly identities and going into identitylessness, not identityless, identitylessness, which means full of identities. And I said, you've got to not be so attached to your identity, which is all your things and all your goods and what you do. And in that way, maybe you could dissolve some of your attachments. But how else can you help someone? Can you help them psychologically like that? I don't think you really can. I think you can help them to look at their emotions, look at their attachment, look at their desire, but I don't think you can really help, because the helping comes from knowing that there is this place that is not tainted by this whole life, that is absolutely free of this whole life, that when you come to the portal of death, there is none of this life is left. Just that what you take out of it, the deeds, your what you need to take out of the life, you take with you, but nothing else. So why so attached? Are we ready to really let go? And my other quotes that I took for tonight, and you can challenge some of them if you want. Having obtained the supreme freedoms and favorable conditions, which we've got, and being weary of impermanence, okay, through intense renunciation, mental renunciation, I've put there. You don't have to go away from life, but mentally you have to renunciate what you're attached to. Endeavor in accepting and rejecting what concerns cause and effect. Cause and effect is karma. So he's saying here, rejecting and accepting. Now, how can you do that? You either accept or you reject. No, you do both, because you have to know the clean life of causes and effects. You have to understand them, because on a relative level, that's where you are. On an ultimate level, none of it exists. In the nature of mind, none of it exists. So you have to accept what you're doing in your daily life. There is something, and that's what the 4 seals are about. And you have to reject other things which mean you can go beyond that cause and effect. Then the third quote I want to do is, when people with deviant view, their minds controlled by externals, see, S-E-E, the door of irrefutable truth, the entire fixated mountain of belief collapses. Now, that quote I saw in one of my retreats in India, that I wrote it down because I thought, you know, everything I believe here is not really true. It's just stuff I've told myself. And here I am to find a different view. So it all collapses when you actually get to that nature of mind, because then suddenly you're seeing everything from a completely different perspective. And the last quote that I want to say is, with the internal grasping mind as the cause and an external fixated object as the condition, you wander constantly in samsara with that internal mind, which then reflects the condition. Somebody said to me today, you know what, Melanie, I just can't seem to win in my life. And I said, don't try all the time as you do to change the circumstances of your life. Change the mind that is reflecting these circumstances. So go internal rather than external. And how do we do that? We just take that tool of awareness and we shine it on everything. We have to do this all day long to really get there. And my first little story is a Chinese fable that tells of a young man observing a sage at the village well. The old man was lowering a wooden bucket on a rope and pulling the water slowly hand over hand. The youth disappeared and returned with a pulley. He approached the old man and showed him how the device worked, how you put it and then you just pull the water out once. The old man resisted. If I use a device like this, my mind will think itself clever. With a cunning mind, I will no longer put my heart into what I'm doing. Soon my wrists alone will do the work. If my heart and whole body are not in my work will become joyless. When my work is joyless, how do you think the water will taste? You know, I love that because I just look at all this technology. It's so smart. Okay. And my computer and I are having a war because my computer wants to sell me AI and I am resisting like that man, you know, because it says, can AI intervene when you're talking? And I go, no, you know, no, I don't want AI to intervene when I'm talking. I don't want it to collect all sorts of things. I don't want to see that. Are we smarter with all these cunning devices? Have we become nicer people? You go with your grandchildren, they tick, 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 on their iPads, you know, you can't even have a conversation with them. What's happened to us with all this cleverness? And these four C's teach us that in a most amazing, amazing way, because it's really important for us to understand, yes, you can use modern technology. You can be smart. You can really do all these things. But have they changed us? Are they going to bring us to the end of this endless cycle in samsara? Are they going to really help us? They're very useful. But I think of the old days when I was much younger, and if you wanted to communicate with any of your family overseas, you got a letter card. You wrote these long blue letter cards. So probably half of you have never even heard of them, okay? You wrote all your news on a letter card. Then you put the stamps on. I don't know, it might have already had the stamp on. And then you went and posted it. And then it took several days for the person to receive it, you know. I mean, that's how we communicated. But maybe we had hearts. Maybe we were in touch. Maybe we lost that. Maybe kids just don't play anymore. They don't find that inner being because they're so technologically advanced. So, you know, we've got to look at all this because in order to get to the nature of mind, we have to actually stop and take time. And I said to this person today, just take half a minute in your day, several times a day, to just become aware of your anxiety and how many things are going wrong. Just become aware. Breathe in the beautiful nature of mind. Breathe out all the things you hassled about and just stay there for half a minute only. Get the ground under your feet and know that there is a place you can go to. And that's how we start connecting with that nature of mind. You've got to actually make such an effort. Every time you receive something or see something that isn't exactly what you think and you need, then you just take a half a minute. We can always find a half a minute. Go and sit in the toilet if you'd work and just contemplate that with awareness. And you see a new perspective to what has been given to you. It's really important. All I can say to you all is, and you can argue with me, but because we're going to go on now to the 4 seals again, but all I can say to you is, I'm just so aware, not only the people I see and counsel, but I'm so aware of how many people are in dire straits and how many people are really struggling with their lives. And they may have everything materially, but so much unhappiness, so much, we've gotten ourselves bogged down. That's what Zongsa is saying. That's why he put the 4 seals into his book, and he wanted us to really be aware. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on all the things I've said tonight so far, or ask anything, or say anything. You're welcome if you do. Yeah, okay. Then let's go on. Fee, can we put the 4 seals up again? Because I think these 4 seals take you to that spacious level if you keep them aware in your mind. And there's the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. I love how you've got this. I must get it from you. So the 4 seals are all compounded things are impermanent. So what we're looking at here and what we looked at last week is that everything is made up of interdependent things. If you want to stop them, you have to not create a cause. Like Zongsa says, stop using plastic if you don't want to have global warming. I don't know how you actually do that, but anyway, because everything seems to be made of plastic, so many things that you use are made of plastic. But all compounded things are impermanent. Now, let's say that you're really having a hard time, and then you find it's a compounded thing. It's an interdependent causes and conditions, and they are not permanent. Then how do you react to them? In a completely different way. Second, all emotions are pain. And I'll go back again to say what Zongsa said about the Buddha and pain. That even your beautiful emotions, somewhere, your love, your compassion, they're all interdependent. They're all not independent emotion. And somewhere along the line, someone lets you down, someone hurts you. So he said, all emotions are pain. Does that mean no emotions? Definitely not. But it means see them for what they are. And then the next thing, which is emptiness. All things have no inherent existence. They are absolute emptiness, which we're going to talk about tonight. And the last seal is nirvana is beyond concepts. So it's amazing. If you did a survey in the street and you asked people, what is nirvana? They'd probably tell you, oh, that's something these crazy people try and get to nirvana. But if you ask them what is heaven, and they were Christians or anyone else, they would tell you what heaven was. They've got a real idea of what heaven is. And that's very, very interesting. Thanks, Fee. So let's go back. So just 2 minutes on what we were doing last time, okay? With all compounded things. Sorry, a rock band called Nirvana. Good job. Are they good? Is their music nice, Tati? A rock band called Nirvana. Yeah, there are lots of people. And when I give you Zongsa's teachings on Nirvana, You're going to have a real chuckle, because they really are funny when he talks about heaven and people's idea of heaven. And you start thinking, do I really want to go there? It's not so easy. I've got this whole bottom row. None of them have got cameras on, and I would love it if you put your cameras on at least. Okay, but we were talking last time of, we're not going to do it long tonight. All compounded things are impermanent. And Zongsa was saying, we stuck in our palaces, in our slums, and things go wrong all the time, from appliances to arguments to relationship to the roof leaks to no electricity to no water. He didn't put that in his book. I would have put it in mine, and social media drive us into a frenzy, and families nag us. He says, yet we are stuck there willingly. That's the point. We put ourselves there, and we want to go back every single time, okay? And even though things decay and they don't last, and the people we love die, we don't even realize how oblivious we are to the shifting and changing of the world. We just delude ourselves, this won't happen to me. Death won't happen to me. My family will remain intact. And then when it's impermanent, the shattering of it is just unbelievable for people. They can't breathe, they can't move, they can't anything. They're absolutely shattered. So he says, if we recognize this interdependence, and then we recognize impermanence, and then we have fearlessness, not fearless, fearlessness, because out of your fear, something must come. If you're fearless, then you do things stupidly. If you've got fearlessness, then it's full of possibility. And then we can appreciate uncertainty. Oh, we don't appreciate uncertainty. But Zongsa asks us to appreciate uncertainty. Yes, Ika, he does. He asks us to. He said, because when we appreciate uncertainty, and that's Pema Chodron's all her work, she says, getting comfortable with discomfort, that kind of thing. And he says, was what we were talking about last week, was when Siddhartha left the palace and he got off the horse and he gave all his jewels and all his everything to Channa, the horseman, and then he took his beautiful hair and cut it off. That was the last of his beauty. And then he embarked on an exploration of impermanence. And when he had starved himself to death, just about, and he wasn't eating, and he was under the Bodhi tree, trying and striving to get enlightened, something in him said, no, this is not the way. He said, nothing in extreme is the way. And when he saw that, he then ate and he drank to make his body a bit stronger. His body was weakening, and all his buddies, who were all starving in their renunciation to find enlightenment, they left him. But when he came back enlightened, they all refused to even look at him. But when they saw his light, they came round and they came to see what had he done. You don't have to renunciate yourself. You don't have to live like a hermit to know the nature of mind. But you do need to know impermanence, and that all things are compounded. And that means you don't attach to anything. You enjoy it, you experience it, you live your life, but you don't attach, because soon one of the causes is going to go away of the compounded things, and it'll be impermanent. And we have to appreciate the whole cycle. Then we went on to emotion and pain, the second one, that all emotions are pain. And we talked about Siddhartha, when Mara attacked him. Mara, the demon, is our own self. Because Mara comes up when we least expect it. And the Buddha was so aware of Mara that when Mara sent the seductive nymphs to seduce him, he was not moved by them. And then Mara sent arrows. Now think about this, what these arrows are, because we've all got them and we talked about them, the arrows last week. First, there was the desire arrow. The desire arrow is everything that we want, that we need, everything in the desire arrow, to be rid of this, but to have this and to have that. And that leads us often to a lust for power. So when Mara cast the first arrow, the desire arrow, the Buddha turned it into flowers. He was not going to be involved in desire. Again, he keeps on stressing, Zongsa, you don't have to not have lovely things and appreciate lovely things, but you have to know that all emotions are pain. So if you attach to them, if you believe that they are you, then you are going to land up suffering. If you think, I am an anxious person, I am a fearful person, I am an angry person, what's that? That's Mara's arrow of the self telling you you are like this. You are not like that one iota. People are always describing themselves to me. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. I go, no, you're not. That's how you are in your temporary identity. That's what you're embracing in your temporary identity. But all the arrows that Mara sent, the pride arrow, where you've really got pride and you think yourself better than people, the envy arrow, all the arrows, Siddhartha said that even with beautiful emotions, the effects can be subtle. So you might think to yourself, I'm so happy. I'm so in love with this person. It's too wonderful. And then it changes. And then we're so disillusioned and we're so unhappy and we're so rattled by everything. So he said he was not wounded by the poison arrows because of awareness. What was his awareness? His awareness was that these emotions are merely illusions, assembled phenomena. And with awareness, we can see the dangers and are not afraid. So we can enjoy without falling into the pit of the emotion. And I think a lot of you get this, because I've seen with a lot of you how you change in your attitudes towards things. That's when you connect with that Buddha nature and you really know what you're doing. And by that, and by knowing and shining that light of awareness, I use that all day long. Every time I'm uptight, we have to make a lot of big decisions in our life. And when I'm uptight, the first thing I come and do is sit and just ponder, just contemplate, and try and go to another dimension. And I said yesterday that Lama Yeshe sent me a text the day before, and the text threw me off guard, I've got to say. It really threw me off guard what he said in that text. But I did not send an answer. By that evening, Annie Lama was phoning me because I think he quite expected an answer. I thought, I'm not giving an answer to this text until I have allowed my awakened nature to shine the light of awareness on what he says. Now, I can't say what was in the text. Okay? It's personal, okay? But what I am saying, it's not, I'll tell you one day, but not now. But the thing is that I really could not respond. I got it in the morning and I was going to teach. And then I had to try and get to a point in the day where I could just sit quietly and contemplate and contemplate. Now, if all of you do this, you will find amazing answers come to you but you don't have to strive for them. If you just give yourself that 2 minutes of space, the answer often plops into you. It's so important, this. Does anyone want to say or ask or comment on it? Then we're going on to the next seal. Are you all okay? Okay, then I'm going on. I'm happy if you want to say anything. The third seal, everything is emptiness. All things have no inherent existence. I mean, what are the implications of this Buddhist teaching? The Buddha taught this finally when he taught the Prajnaparamita. And what they rephrased the Prajnaparamita, which is the transcendent wisdom. And when the monks listened to this teaching, many of them had heart attacks. And many of them actually dropped from listening to that teaching. It was such a shock. And there are books that have been written, it's called the Heart Attack Sutra, because in it, the Buddha explained emptiness. Emptiness does not mean empty. It means emptiness means full of possibility, but nothing has an inherent existence, okay? So emptiness means full of possibility. Now, in the Heart Sutra, the Buddha taught form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. So are feelings, perceptions, habits, and on and on and on and on. They were all emptiness. And people who really were interested in the Dharma when he gave this teaching, they actually fainted because it was too profound. And Zongsa is very, very, very careful to say, if you want to explain emptiness to someone, you need to be very skillful, because people really get frightened. You know, if I say to you, I've got an empty fridge, you think, shame, she's got nothing in the fridge. This is not nothingness. This is no thing. It's emptiness. And Zongsa says, emptiness, the big Buddhist word that so few really understand, and even fewer apply it to their daily lives. How do you apply this to your daily life? That's what I'm interested in. Not these seals that are over there. I'm interested in this coming into your daily lives. And I want you to contemplate this during the holidays. And also, I said to the others, you know, my two last Monday morning lectures, I think a lot of you that weren't there would really find them very beneficial to listen to. So during the holiday period, when I'm not teaching, it'll be good to listen to them. But he asks, what is the benefit of contemplating the impermanence and emptiness of the phenomenal world? How can emptiness be profitable? Now, in his book, let me just find it. In his book, it's very, very interesting because he says, you may still ponder what is the benefit of understanding emptiness. By understanding emptiness, you maintain an appreciation for all that appears to exist, but without clinging to the illusions as if they were real, and without the incessant disappointment of a child chasing a rainbow. You see through the illusions and are reminded that it is the self that created them in the first place. You may still get stirred up or emotional, sad, angry, or passionate, but you can have confidence. You can have the confidence of someone at the cinema who can leave the drama behind, because there's a clear understanding that it's just a movie. So when you come out of a hair-raising movie, or a movie on wars, or a movie that touches on death or something like that. When you come out of a movie like that, you go, I'm pleased it was just a movie. But when you go through that in your life, you are involved as though that drama would never end. And he says, your hopes and fears are at least slightly diffused when we have realized emptiness, when we don't fully understand that all things are illusions. The world seems real, tangible, and solid. And our hopes and fears also become solid and thus uncontrollable. And he goes on to say how we feel about our parents, what they should be doing, how we soften our expectations, what expectations we had people. He says, you simply by understanding emptiness, you lose interest in all the trappings and beliefs that society builds up and tears down. Political systems, science and technology, global economy, free society, the United Nations. You just start to say, it's not that you have to drop out of society, but you really have an understanding that emptiness makes you look at things in a different way. Look how much time, I mean, you can ask yourself every day, how much time am I putting into this and this and this? You have to ask yourself, because maybe you're putting a ridiculous amount of time into things and no time to connect with that nature of mind. And he says, human logical mind operates on one inadequate system of logic. In fact, he says we are idiots to believe, he uses the word idiots quite a few times in the book. We are idiots to believe that system of logic, even though there are countless other systems that are available to us. We see things as black and white. We can only relate to linear time, linear shape, linear size. He says, but how did Milarepa fit into a yak horn? And how do masters leave footprints in a rock? And how did the king look in the sky and he saw the Buddha and all his disciples flying in their physical bodies? How did they do that? They did that because they did not believe in the solidity of things. We have got that solid thing. I always laugh because I tell that story over and over, that when I was in India and I was really deeply involved in my practice and in everything I was doing. So I put my leg up like this one day, and my leg was made of rainbow light. So I thought, how great. I'm actually seeing the reality of my leg. So when I next went to Rinpoche, I said, you know, Rinpoche, quite proudly, and he undid it so quickly, okay. I said, you know, not even concentrating, I had my leg up in the air, and it was suddenly made of rainbow light. And he said, oh, but can you put your hand through it? You know, I said, no, because the minute you take your hand and you try and put it through, okay, you go back to thinking. You can't see the illusion. So you go back to thinking. So the Buddha never had that. He attained enlightenment, and so there was nothing. He could go on the top of a mountain, he could just fly off in his physical body, and so could all his disciples. And how did Miller go into the yak horn, which is this big, when he was a real human size, and sit in when the hail came? And why can't I? I can't because I'm Dick, because I think I'm made of substance, because I think I've got a physical thing and I think I'm physical. But as soon as you begin to drop the illusion, you will be amazed at what you can do. I go back to my diaries That's all I've got here. I haven't got half my books. So I've got my diaries from long retreats and everything. Then I just read what my thoughts were because I used to write them down, what I realized. I remember once I was in retreat and they decided they were going to paint the building. I think I remember telling you about this. So all these ladders and everything went up right outside my room. And I'm going like, guys, do you realize that I came all the way from South Africa to sit in a quiet retreat? And you're banging and clapping, and not only that, and painting, you're also making a noise. But then I said, the question mark. What is this solid noise? Why can't I hear it as mantras? And then I decided, don't interpret the noise with your physical mind, with your human mind. Try and go beyond. And the one day I was sitting and meditating, and suddenly I looked up, and the guy who was painting outside my window decided he would meditate with me on the ladder. Okay, so when I opened my eyes, there was the worker sitting in meditation with me. As soon as I finished, he finished and went on with the job. And it taught me something. I thought, don't judge. Don't judge things with your human mind. Really look deeply and see that this is what emptiness is about. And he says, how do these masters do things? He says, appearance is quite an unstable basis for truth. Now, what did our parents teach us? What's the truth about this watch? Don't steal it, it belongs to me, blah, 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 blah. And what's the truth about you? And what's the truth about this? We were taught that. And yet he says, Zongsa, appearance is quite an unstable basis for truth. Interesting. We assume that it really exists, but can we go further? Does the label we give exist like that? Emptiness does not cancel out our daily experience. Viewing our experience in the world as a dream, which we can still enjoy. Siddhartha found that our habit of fixating on and attaching to mere appearance of this relative dreamlike world, thinking it truly exists, throws us into an endless cycle of pain and anxiety. It's really true. We have to look completely differently without attaching. You know that beautiful story of the monkey, that how they trapped the monkeys in Asia was they dug out a hole in the coconut, and at the bottom of the coconut they put sweets, and then the monkey would smell the sweets, go into the sweets, and hold his hand. And then the hunter would come to catch the monkey. And the monkey was desperate to run away, go running into the trees, but he couldn't let go of the sweets. He held on to the sweets, and that's how the hunter could catch him. Now think about it. All he had to do was let go of the sweets, and he would be free to jump into the tree. And we are like that. And there is something there, but not as we believe it to be. Tilopa Naropa said, it's not the appearance that binds you, it's the attachment to the appearance that binds you. And Zongsa gives this very interesting story, and I challenge you with this story, everybody. It goes like this. A long time ago, in a drought-ridden country, a respected soothsayer predicted that after 7 days, there would finally be rain. His prediction came true, and there was great rejoicing. He then predicted a rain of jewels, and once again, his prediction was accurate. The people were very happy and prosperous. His next prediction was that after 7 days, there would be another rain, a cursed rain. And anyone who drank this rainwater would go insane. The king ordered huge amounts of uncontaminated water to be stored so that he wouldn't have to drink the cursed rain. But his subjects didn't have the resources to store their water. When the rain came, they drank the water and became crazy. And guess what? The king alone was sane, but he could not rule his crazy subjects. So as a last resort, he too drank the water. In order to rule them, he needed to share in their delusions. Isn't that interesting? You too, when you go to work, like Igor, your problem today that you had with the delivery of coal to your house, and they delivered short of coal. And that's such an interesting thing, because the world is insane. And how do you deal, if you've got a sane Buddha mind, how do you deal with insane people? You probably have to become a little bit insane to deal with them, because otherwise you're different. And then he goes on to say that, sorry, where is it? There was once a frog who lived in a well. One day he met a frog from the ocean, and the ocean frog told fantastic tales of his ocean and boasted of its vastness. But the well frog couldn't believe him. He believed his well to be the biggest and most fabulous body of water in the world, because he had no reference point, no experience, no reason to think otherwise. So the ocean frog took the well frog to the ocean. Facing the vastness of the ocean, the well frog died of a heart attack. Okay, shame. And Zongsa says, he says, maybe you need skillful means. Maybe he should have first educated the frog about the big ocean, not just taken him to see the big ocean so that he died of absolute shock. We can't be shocked into this impermanence. Shame, Mart got bumped off. We can't shock, we have to understand this impermanence in order to go forward. It's really, really important. And I think that, here is again. And I think that when you switch on the light of others, we need to be skillful. There are many paths, and people have to be prepared to be introduced to emptiness. It helps with the incessant disappointment we constantly feel in our lives. It helps us in our relationships. We are prepared when the situation changes and what we wished for is no longer there. We're not caught up in the illusion. We need courage to go beyond the norms. One day we will realize, not intellectually, that there's no such a thing as big or small, gain or loss. Everything is relative. It changes everything, absolutely everything. Our whole perspective, everything gets changed from knowing emptiness. And finally, let's quickly do nirvana is beyond concepts, and then we'll do a meditation. So, the Buddha, after countless previous lives, finally reached the other shore, the other side of samsara. This state is referred to as nirvana. When he passed away, he even went beyond nirvana to a state para-nirvana. You know, you hear them say, the Buddha passed over to para-nirvana. So do a lot of the masters. It means beyond nirvana. Why? I'll tell you why. Nirvana, we can think of it as enlightenment, liberation, freedom, heaven. I mean, how much is taught about heaven in Christianity, not really in Judaism, but they will say that all the souls are gathered together, you know, they all be together after this life and things like that. And in Christianity, you're told you're either going to be born in heaven or you're going to be born in hell after this life. Okay. But we may think that nirvana is different from heaven. But he says, both where you go if you've been a good citizen. Okay, so if you're good, then you'll go to nirvana or you'll go to heaven when you die. He says, there you'll meet all the good dead people. Okay, I mean, it's ridiculous. Our thoughts and our beliefs are ridiculous. You'll meet all the good dead people. It's perfect there, except that we have to leave our loved ones behind. But never mind, they'll come and join you later. And meanwhile, we could guide them from heaven. Okay? Meanwhile, we could guide them from heaven. Okay? And so Siddhartha found these versions. He said, these are fantasies. They're not the truth. They're the delusions that people have in their mind. Why? Why do people have delusions about nirvana and fantasy? So Zongsa is hysterical. Stop now. Okay. So Zongsa is really hysterical because he says, oh, heaven is so nice for a while, but then what? He says, what if you go to heaven and you get up in the morning and you pray and then you have a lovely meal and everybody's nice to each other and there are no challenges. It's all just cool. Oh, you'd love it. He says, but won't we get stuck there? Won't we eventually think, oh my God, this is so boring. I wish there'd be a nice movie or a nice something, you know, when you're in heaven. He's hysterical. He says, would we be happy with a final resting place? You know how at funerals they go, and so is at last at peace and resting. Why would you need to rest when you haven't got a physical body? I mean, for what would you need to rest? You only need to rest because I'm exhausted in my physical body. But you definitely don't need to rest when you haven't got a physical body. Okay, a final resting place or a heaven or a nirvana. He says, it isn't a place at all, said the Buddha. It's a release from the straitjacket of delusion. What do you think of that? A release from the straitjacket of delusion. That's what nirvana is. When you're no longer deluded by all the crap in your life, just to be honest like that. He says, it is not Siddhartha's aim to be happy. It is not his aim to be happy. Instead, it's a direct route to freedom from suffering, from delusion and confusion. So nirvana is neither happiness nor unhappiness. It goes beyond all those dualistic concepts. What have you all been looking for your whole life? Happiness. What does happiness mean? He gives examples. He's so funny. He says, this guy is so happy in his relationship and he's in love with the woman and he's on top of the world. And then another woman comes along and he thinks he could be so happy with her. He gives up that happiness for another one. And we do that all the time. It's temporary. It's compounded. It's impermanent. What is nirvana? What is the state of nirvana? Why did the Buddha pass into para-nirvana? Para means beyond nirvana. Because why do we think there's a place where finally I'll have peace, where finally it'll be so gorgeous, I won't have to worry about anything, I won't need any money, I won't need anything like that. It'll just be so peaceful. These are all the challenges. You're all very quiet, but I can see you really are listening, okay? When you finally, he says, Nirvana is peace by simply understanding the truth, which brings about the attainment of enlightenment, okay? Not the kind of peace we think, I'm sitting in a great peaceful state. Not that, okay? Peace is when you know the truth. You don't just understand the truth, you realize the truth. When you realize the truth, you are awake. When you are awake, you are blissful, not happy. You know that word happy. Okay, I know they always used to say, Happy Christmas or Merry Christmas, you know, be merry, happy, happy, happy. People will go and they'll get a bit drunk and they'll go, happy, happy, happy. Forget it. Forget about happiness. Because happiness is temporary, it's transient, it's attachment, it's going to change. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then yesterday. So what we're looking at is when you finally realize, not intellectually, that everything in your life is just your creation. When you finally realize that it is just your creation, you will be free. And when you are free, he says, you will be in bliss. Bliss is a feeling of enlightenment, not the same as happiness. And he says, Siddhartha emphasized to his followers the futility of seeking peace and happiness. Happiness is temporary. We're quick to forsake one happiness when a better one comes along. Happiness is a flimsy premise, says Zongsa, that upon which to base our lives. Just as our enthusiasm for doing the dishes comes from trusting that we will have clean dishes when we finished washing them, our enthusiasm for eliminating our obscurations, all our rubbish, all our pain, all our everything, our enthusiasm for eliminating our obscurations, which have become second nature, comes from trusting that we have Buddha nature. How do you get that? How do you trust it? He says the primordial absence of defilements is your Buddha nature. When you trust that, like you trust, when you put your dishes into the dishwasher and you turn on the dishwasher, you trust that when those dishes are done, they will come out clean. Now, in the same way, you have to trust that your Buddha nature knows. You have to trust it more than anything else in the world, so that whatever difficulty you've got, you just put it forward and you trust it. You trust what you are, how your Buddha nature would actually do it. And you know, I've got my own philosophy. My husband will always shout about this philosophy of mine. But what I do is when I've got something that's really worrying me, you know, something that's annoying me, frustrating me, upsetting me, making me anxious or whatever, I always talk about it. And he says, you're repeating yourself. And I go, well, when you hear me, then I won't repeat myself. But actually, when I'm saying it, I'm getting in touch with it. I say, this is what I feel. It's difficult for other people, but I like to say it until I can come to terms with it. And then once I've identified it and I feel it and I trust that feeling not as a permanent thing, but that this is what I'm feeling, then it is amazing because I can go into a space where it will just completely disappear in 1 minute. And I really find that works. It works tremendously, but it's not very easy to do that before you have expressed it, before you have said, and a lot of you have trouble in saying what you're feeling and identifying what you're feeling. I can see you all listening, but you're all very quiet, and I'm just going on and on and on. But even if we only intellectually understand the basic goodness of ourselves and all beings, this understanding brings us closer to the accomplishment of that enlightenment. Obscurations are only due, all our rubbish is only due to causes and conditions that can be manipulated and ultimately cleansed, just dissolved. And that is the state of nirvana, not some place over there that you're going to reach. You know how people go, oh, when I'm there, I'm going to really reach this beautiful place, and I'm going to be sitting in the heaven world because look at all my good deeds that I've done. I've been such a good citizen, and I'm going to meet with all good people there. What rubbish. He agrees. He agrees. They agree with me. What rubbish. I mean, it's all a state of mind. So if you don't train your mind to know that nature, how are we going to free ourselves?
Well,
yes, please.
So I think that there are many realms. And of course, we know that there are many, many realms. And a lot of our loved ones are in one of those realms. But that's why they also warn us is that to be careful about when we die, to not just take the first door, the first light, or the first, because we're training our minds to not just go in the first door, the first light, or the first whatever, or not to be fearful of the sounds or things like that, So yeah, I just think there's so many realms. I went to this talk a couple of weeks ago by this lady. I just felt drawn to go to this talk, but she had a very interesting near-death experience, and she spent about 30 hours in the spirit world, and she came back, and she was completely healed, and now she does these talks. Now, of course, I take everything with a pinch of salt because of my training, but I do find it very interesting. And for me, I don't just stop at what you're saying. I don't just stop at what she's saying. I think that, it's very easy to say, oh, there's the spirit world or there's this one realm. I think it goes further and further. There's parinirvana, it's massive, it's vast.
Okay, but now let me just say something to you.
Yeah.
In terms of the death and dying teachings, it's so interesting because you have to first ask yourself a question. What is a realm? Okay, what is a realm? Because you've really got to understand that. Because what you've got to understand, when you come to death, okay, and we can't even say higher realms and lower realms because there's no such a thing as higher or lower. It's just the realm you are in, which is going to cause a state of bliss or a state of unhappiness. But the bottom line is the realms, when you look at the lower realms in the teachings on the bardos in Buddhism, the higher realms, so to speak, the higher realms, okay, are what we are learning to recognize, know as soon as we enter the state of death, okay? And then they tell you, while that is happening, if you don't recognize it, but at the same time that that is happening, even if you recognize, all those other realms, the human realms, are beckoning to you, okay? Because those are habits. Those are your habits. Those are the realms that we are used to. Now, when you come into the clear light, the luminous colors of the second bardo, and when one of the realms that we are habitually used to Let's not even say a hell realm. Let's say a human desire realm, or let's say even a God realm, or let's say even a jealous God realm. Let's say one of the higher realms of the lower realms, okay? You know, if you've got the habit of all the rubbish that you create in your mind over and over again, they tell you, don't be attracted to those realms. Those realms are not places. They are places in your mind. So it's now that you are cleaning out your mind so that your mind is totally free to be able to see the truth. This is what these four seals are about. They are about the true nature, what we are. All things are compounded and impermanent. Emotions, all emotions are pain. Everything is emptiness. It's not empty, it's emptiness. Everything is, nirvana is not a concept, it's a state of mind. And if in your life you create a state of mind of looking at things in the truthful way, not as illusions, you are free. You're free from the straitjacket of delusions. And he says that's what nirvana is about. It's not a place, it's a state of mind. But you know, when you look at those Bardo teachings and you see the pulling to the samsaric realms and the pulling to the higher realms, just think of yourself. You come in, you've died, you now are free to see the clear light. And I was teaching on the Monday mornings where the sun, SON, goes to the mother, which is the space. People are petrified of that. And they're more petrified in the second bardo when sounds, lights, and rays and all the colors are there. They don't know that this is me. They get frightened. I can't look at this. It's too scary for me. I don't know it. But if you know it, it's a piece of cake. The Buddha just automatically transferred to para-nirvana, beyond nirvana. Just consider it, because the Buddha's disciple Nagarjuna wrote that the Lord Buddha had not stated that after abandoning samsara, there exists nirvana, but the non-existence of samsara is nirvana. Okay? Enlightenment is the result of the exhaustion of your defilements and the exhaustion of the antidote to your defilements. And ultimately, we have to even abandon the path to enlightenment. He says, if you still define yourself as a Buddha, you are not a Buddha yet. If you define yourself as a Buddha, you are not a Buddha yet. In other words, there's no concept to you, not even the concept of a Buddha when you know. So I want to read you a story, but let's just do a meditation on these four seals, okay? So I want you to really relax your physical body completely and totally. Note where you have tension in your body, especially if you're carrying it in the neck from your day, in the shoulders from your day's events. A lot of you work hard and you're exhausted by the night. I want you to feel where the tension is. And wherever you've got tension, in your lips, in your forehead, in your chin, in your neck, feel it in your ears. Feel where you've got tension and breathe into that tension so that you can let it go completely and totally. Just allow the tension to be gone. You can shine awareness of it. As soon as you're aware, you just relax that whole physical body right to your toes, right to your fingers, right to your nose, your eyes, your forehead. Check every single place and totally relax. Totally. And as you breathe in, I want you to really take a breath into the nostrils. Fresh air, sky, spaciousness, limitlessness, emptiness, blueness, absolute open, spacious. Breathe it into this body. And you breathe out every bit of tension, every emotion, anger, tension from the day, grudges, fears, anxiety, searching, striving. Breathe it all out. The space can absorb it. And breathe again into the huge spaciousness and out all of those things that you are attached to, that you are holding. Breathe it all out. These 4 seals are the 4 views, which are the spine of Buddhism. Fundamentally, it's not the act of leaving behind the material world that Buddhists cherish, but the ability to see the habitual clinging to this world and to ourselves, and to renounce the clinging and attachment on all things which are illusory. Just let them be. Realize this is a temporary, transient drama, and I'm just one of the players in it. And allow absolutely everything to be free, open, spacious, emptiness. When you can have one moment of a glimpse into the clear light of peace, not the kind of peace we always searching for, but peace where we're not worrying, clinging, holding, working, striving, analyzing, then we are in nirvana, the blissful state. Just a teeny, teeny, teeny dose of the medicine every day. Just a little. You don't have to do a long time. You don't have to do anything. You just slowly, slowly, slowly making yourself aware. And in the holiday period, I'd really like you to look through some of the stuff, take out the teaching you want, and really get to understand it. I'm just going to read you a little story. It's called The Blind Men and the Elephant. One day, a huge elephant suddenly showed up on the east side of Saravasti. The presence of the elephant created an excitement in the city because everyone wanted to see exactly how big the creature was. The crowd grew larger and larger and people were as excited as if a circus had come to town. At this time, there happened to be some blind men living in the city. They also wanted to know what an elephant was like. So how could a blind man see? They decided that they could get an idea of what an elephant looked like by using their hands. So they walked up next to the elephant and began to touch its body. The first blind man touched the elephant's abdomen. The second touched the elephant's ear. The third touched the elephant's leg. The fourth touched the tail, and the fifth touched the trunk. Afterwards, they discussed among themselves what they thought an elephant would look like. The one who touched the elephant's ear said, "I know that the elephant is like a dustpan." The blind man who touched the elephant's abdomen said, "Oh, no, no. An elephant is like a piece of a wall, flat and big." "You are both wrong," said the blind man who touched the elephant's tail. "An elephant is definitely like a huge rope." After the first three blind men spoke, the fourth blind man who had touched the elephant's leg said with an air of confidence, "You're all making wild guesses. An elephant's not like a dustbin, a wall, or a rope. It's like a pillar, round and tall." Finally, the one who touched the elephant's trunk said, "All of you are wrong. An elephant is like a hook." Now think about this story. 5 blind men all gave different descriptions of an elephant, and none of them would accept the other's opinion. When the Buddha heard the story, he said to his disciples, "None of the 5 men saw the real elephant. The whole and true appearance of an elephant can only be seen with the eye of wisdom. Foolish and ignorant sentient beings that think they know everything are like these blind men feeling an elephant. They are stubborn, biased, and cannot see the complete truth of the universe." It's true. And so important to actually understand this. And that's what those 4 seals are for, to really leave behind our usual concepts of how we believe about things and look deeply to see how they really are. Anyone want to say anything? Because otherwise we're going to devote, I've done what I want to do. And then next week, we're going to have Lama Yeshe for a while. And then Annie Lama and I are going to have a lovely discussion and have a lovely end of the year. And then we're going to break for a long time. But I'd really like you to use the recordings, all the other recordings of all the other wonderful teachings that there are. Oh, La, we're so happy to see you. Okay. And it's really important. Do you want to ask something? No. Okay. Anybody? Okay. Anybody want? Okay. Let's dedicate, and then I will stay for a few minutes if anybody does want to ask, but let's dedicate and let's really think of all the people who are in trials and tribulations, especially in the war. I was looking at that Ukrainian war today. I mean, it's just an unbelievable thing. I mean, about 12,000 people have been killed in that war. And you think of all of them in the bardos, and you think, for what? For one man's ego. And so tonight, I want to dedicate to all the people who have been hit with the desire arrow, who can't see that their lust for power is going to cause them many, many, many eons of time in a state of mind that is not going to be very healthy and wholesome for them. And we dedicate for both all of those people and all the victims who have been subject to war and pain and sorrow and everything. Through the merit of this teaching, may all beings attain omniscience. May all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe tranam pamshene chegana chi balak dropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. Just get there.